Welcome to Community Matters. I'm Becky Steinbrunner, and I'm honored to be your host here for the next 2 hours and invite you to call in when we ask, because we have a great guest here in the first hour, Mr. Bryan Shields, representing Nor Cal Carpenters Union, and he'll be talking with us about some issues that are happening up at UCSC and the great work that Nor Cal Carpenters Union is doing in our community. I'd like to first thank Satellite Work and Digital Media Space for allowing our Santa Cruz voice to be in our studio within their building. It is a wonderful place, and I encourage you all out there in our listening audience to stop in and take a tour. The first Fridays of every month, and that'll be next Friday, are free for people to come in and try out using their workspace. If you need a space that's quiet, clean, very secure, you might come by and consider taking a tour and checking it out for free next Friday, but any time you can come in. It's a place where you can have small meetings. There's small meeting rooms. There's digital equipment if you want to rent something and make a podcast. We share this area with the community television, another great gem in our community. So many thanks to Satellite Work and Digital Media Space. It's at 325 SoCal Avenue in Santa Cruz. That's located between Ocean Street and the beautiful San Lorenzo River. Without further ado, I would like to ask our guest, Mr. Bryan Shields, to please introduce yourself, and thank you so much for being our guest today, Bryan.
Absolutely, Becky. Thank you for having me on. My name is Bryan Shields, and I am an organizer for Carpenters Local 646. We're located in Marina, and we cover Santa Cruz and Monterey County. Give a little bit of a background, kind of a zoomed out picture. We're part of the greater Nor Cal Carpenters Union, which covers 46 counties of California. We have about 36,000 plus members in that region with 21 locals throughout.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you for taking time. You are one busy guy, and taking time to share with us what is going on with UCSC. I saw the workers out there on the main entrance a few weeks ago, stopped and talked with them, and that's how you and I have connected, through those good people. I'd like to just turn the floor over to you to talk about what you want to say here.
Yeah, sure. So, the Carpenters Union, first of all, I feel like most people don't really understand what a union is, or how many different varieties of unions there are. And so the Carpenters Union, we really try to do our best to prop up the worker, not just in wages, but also in where they're coming from, if they're a veteran, minorities, women, and many others. We have multiple committees inside of our Carpenters Union. One of them we call it is the CIA, which is Carpenters in Action. But that's educating folks inside our union about taking political action and trying to create opportunities for themselves out there. Powers is specifically for politics, where we'll mobilize and support candidates. Focus is for propping up women in the industry, and making sure that they have a place and a voice. And it's easy to sort of bring people on, but it's the retention piece, right? So Focus, really, that's what the deal is they focus on retention and propping each other up and hearing each other. True is for minorities, and again, it's the same thing, where it's one thing just to hire somebody on and bring them in. It's a whole other thing to retain them. And so again, this is an opportunity for us it's a platform where folks can be heard and also support one another. They have meetings throughout California. All of these do. Valors for our veterans transitioning from being active military or having a DD-214 and being out of the military and coming in and joining the union. And then Pride is for our LGBTQ plus members, that they again have their own platform. So, I don't want to sort of headline it there, but I just wanted to kind of provide this opportunity to talk about who we are and why we do what we do. One of the other things that we have is life maintenance, where we have a member assistance program, and then we've gone through California and many of the counties and cultivated the different resources, right? Mental health, unfortunately, in construction is a major issue. There's over 5,000 suicides a year in construction across the country, and 14,000 overdoses. So it's an issue, and we are propping each other up. We are supporting one another and cultivating these resources. And we've created content for meetings around this. So all throughout California, we're educating our members, supporting our members. They know that they have somebody they can turn to. So just to touch on one thing, 988 is the mental health line for the United States now, and they're a fantastic resource, and they haven't gotten out there far enough yet. Mm-hmm. Sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you, because I think many times people don't really understand what a union is all about, and what good work it does. Being part of a union and organized really does for the people, for the workers, and their families. So thank you. And how does one join the union? My son is a member of an electrical union up in Washington State. It is a fabulous plan. He's an apprentice. Talk with us a little bit about the benefit of being a member of a union.
Yeah, so I could tell you from my story. Before I got on the union, or into the union, I was building multi-million-dollar houses in Marin County, and I was paid $13 an hour. And then I had to fight to get on the books, and then I was paid $15 an hour, and then had to fight to get back up to at least taking home the same amount of money. And so I got to $18 an hour, and that was over about a 3-year period. I was told things like you're fired before you hit the ground, and when we were framing roofs and all of it. So all of a sudden I got this opportunity to get into a union. There was a company that sponsored me into the pile drivers union. So I'm a pile driver. I do deep foundations, bridges, overpasses, piers, docks, all of that.
Wow.
And they I had an opportunity to get sponsored in, and when I did, I was blown away. I immediately had gotten a raise to the point where I was able to sustain myself. I wasn't running a deficit each month. Mm-hmm. And then after a couple months, I had healthcare kick in, and then you get vested in your pension, and so now I'm looking at not having to work until the day I drop. Mm-hmm. I have an opportunity to retire at some point, so I have dignity in that, and that's really what the Carpenters Union is about. I did not know any of that. I wasn't educated on these things before I got into the union, and so I was just absolutely blown away. Also, the level of training that was provided to me. It's a 4-year apprenticeship, and I was able to start as a first period apprentice, and then go all the way through to an 8th period apprentice, and then become a journey person after that for the Pile Drivers Union. That's Local 34 out of Oakland. And I did 10 years as a pile driver before I became an organizer for the Carpenters Union, which is a part of the the Pile Drivers is a part of the Carpenters Union.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so how does one apply to join a union if they have? Can they become an apprentice with no skills but interest? How does that work to join a union?
Yeah, so if you can go to our apprenticeship website, which is ctcnc.org, and apply to become an apprentice. It's on the top banner right in the middle. There's a couple different ways to do it. You can join the pre-apprenticeship program, and it's 6 weeks, and they just run you through the paces and get you up to speed to become an apprentice. You can just apply and then wait to get called, or you can get a sponsorship from a union signatory company, and those are the various ways to get into the union.
Mm-hmm. I did visit the Nor Cal Carpenters Union website and see that there's going to be an orientation for new union members in Santa Cruz on April 12th. So they're held all around the Bay Area, and on April 12th there'll be one in Santa Cruz. Is that something that somebody, if they just wanted to come talk with people, could attend without actually signing up, or is it closed to union members only?
That's a union member event. So our new members, they get this opportunity 4 times a year to come in, and we just give them the download of who we are, why we do what we do, what's available to them, what they're looking at in the long run, because many of them are first period apprentices. So they're starting out and they're very green. There's not like a mountain of knowledge or ability that you need to join the union either. That's what the apprenticeship is all about. It's about building people up. So the knowledge and the skills that you need to be a carpenter, to be a pile driver, to be any of these things are learned at the apprenticeship and learned on the job.
Excellent. My son attends classroom time once a month too, and I assume, is there something like that also in the Nor Cal Carpenters Union?
Yeah, so different unions are structured differently. We have a standalone building apprenticeship. We have 4 of them in California, and so our members go there for a week and get skilled up, and then go back to work the following week.
And then are there further trainings along the way, other than in the field work, where you get exposed to new building techniques and regulations and things like that? Plan reading?
Yeah, so our apprenticeship is our school, and you have 16 classes that you take before you become a journey person, and then after that we still have journeyman upgrades, journey person upgrades, where anybody can go back in as long as you're part of the union and take classes that you're interested in. We do have plan reading. We have Bluebeam, which is a digital. You see guys walking around looking at their iPad. It's a digital set of plans and how to access that and use those correctly. We have Dusty Robotics as well, which is it's a robot that will lay out the floor of a building perfectly, paint it. They'll interlace, the different crafts as well. So you'll see your mechanical, you see your electrical, you see your plumbing. You'll also see all your framing, all the beams, all the work that goes into it. So you can actually see interfaces where things are going to obstruct one another before you're putting them in. Our apprentices and our journey people get trained up on that, or have the ability to get trained up on that. We have AB 2011 is one of the bills that we help pass, and it provides opportunity for development to move along, for housing to be built, and but they have to use a responsible general contractor on it. When that bill was passed, we started a class called AB 2011, and that's all about wood framing. and making sure that our membership knows how to do it, how to pass code, how to do it well and efficiently.
Wow, those are all wonderful skills and classes. I know that in Santa Cruz County now all plans have to be submitted for permitting electronically, so that's where everything is electronic plan reading. And then I'm very interested in the robotics piece where the robot actually goes in and paints the lines. Did I understand that correctly? Like on the site, it
That's
actually
correct.
paints the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
great. Probably saves a lot
Yeah,
of money too further down the road with things. And now you've mentioned AB 2011. In part of my research about the Nor Cal Carpenters Union, I see that the union also does prosecute for wage theft. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, if that's something you want to include today, but I think it's a very important piece of work that the union does.
Yeah, absolutely. We found, in conjunction with other agencies that are doing similar work, right?
Yeah.
But we have found just dramatically terrible events going on out there. And everybody likes to think like, oh, well, it's not that bad here in California. It's in Arizona, or it's in New Mexico, or it's somewhere else at some other time. It can't be here. I guarantee you everybody in this that's listening to this or will listen to this drove by a project today that has wage theft going on, that has extortion going on, and all of the above. I'm not really talking about like, immigration status or anything like that, but
Right.
if a worker works 1 minute of one day in the United States, they're covered under the NLRA, right? The National Labor Relations Act.
Okay, yeah.
And therefore, they don't know that though, right? And so what ends up happening is people end up getting extorted because they're afraid, right? They don't want to speak up. People don't naturally want to speak up either, but they don't want to speak up if they're afraid of, maybe immigration status, different things. And so, those folks might not get paid, or they get paid a percentage of their wage, or they have to do a kickback to their foreman, right?
Wow.
And so there's literal extortion going on all around us. And it's just sort of, I got an interesting quote, when we dive into W.E. O'Neill, but I got an interesting quote from their lawyer about that, where they said, obtained an email correspondence with UCSC in which a lawyer representing W.E. O'Neill of Nor Cal argued that because the lawsuit filed against ADCO Drywall was commonplace in construction, it was not enough to invalidate W.E. O'Neill of Northern California's bid for the project. Now, what was filed about ADCO Drywall, which is one of the worst, I just got to say, they're huge, they're everywhere, but they're one of the worst players, is ADCO Drywall. And here's what happened with ADCO Drywall, which, by the way, is the subcontractor performing the framing and drywall at the W.E. O'Neill project on the UCSC campus right now for family housing. So they're out there right now.
Wow.
Yeah, so ADCO Drywall and Metal Framing, one of its subcontractors, has had at least one lawsuit accusing the company of wage theft with a settlement. So this is settled. So it's not even the total value, because nothing ever gets settled for the total value.
Right.
Of $1.274 million.
Wow. Wow. In wage theft.
Yeah. And so now UCSC has invited W.E. O'Neill onto this project, and W.E. O'Neill has invited ADCO Drywall onto this project. And so now our community that you and I live in, that we love, because of UCSC's actions, we have a contractor that's committed over $1 million in wage theft.
Yeah.
Uh,
Possibly
Gabriel,
more because it was a settlement.
right.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
So, no, it's great. Gabriel, I am sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his last name correctly. Banulos, a previous ADCO drywall worker, described himself as a victim of wage theft from the company during public comment in July 17th UC Regents meeting. So Regents, it's the people who run the UC system. If you think about it, if the UC system was a corporation, they would be the board.
Mm-hmm.
And the translation of what this worker said, right, is we work 10 hours a day, and the company did not pay us for all those hours. ADCO fired us when we insisted they pay us. ADCO owes us over $9,000 in pending salaries and damages.
Wow.
So, I mean, depending on where somebody's sitting when they're listening to this, $9,000 might not sound like a lot, right? But
it is
$9,000 to somebody who's going week to week, paycheck to paycheck, trying to scrape by and make ends meet, and do the right thing.
Yeah.
Could be a lot. That could be the difference between making it and not making it.
Yeah. Feeding your family and keeping a roof over your head and not. And working 10 hours a day. That's hard work too. So
certainly.
That's how. So the UC Regents are well aware of this problem.
We've made them aware. Yes.
Yeah. And how are they responding?
I can't speak for maybe who else inside of our union might be talking to them, but I would say we've gotten almost nothing in response.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's there's nobody leaning in, wanting to take this on that I've seen. So I don't want to speak in generalities like that because, there might be somebody that is.
Yeah.
I personally haven't seen that, and I would very much welcome that opportunity to get to work, because there's things like pre-qualification language that would protect workers, that would protect, our communities, wherever a UC is in California. It could protect that community from wage theft. It could not only just protect it from wage theft, but also bolster the companies that are doing the right thing everywhere.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes. Because I would think that there are regulations for a state agency that they have to hire union workers. Is that not so?
No, that is not true.
Oh, no.
They use prevailing wage, and that's it. But any company can pay prevailing wage. And then they say that they have a level of certainty that prevailing wage is being paid on projects because there's third-party auditors. Now, whether or not you have a good auditor, I don't know. But I would say my experience is that many times what ends up happening is the payroll gets sent in, the auditor signs it, and it goes to California. So.
Yeah. This is really disturbing. Because these people are working hard, and if they speak up, they get fired, is what you're telling me. Or that has happened with ADCO. What can people do to support the union laborers and insist that the regents take a look at this and turn it around?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a wonderful question, and thank you for asking it. Really what people could do is you can look up the UC Regents and then look at their agenda many times on the agenda, even if it's a past agenda, you can find an email address on there. I wish I was a little more prepared for this. I would have found that for you.
Oh,
Um,
that's okay.
and you can write into that email address requesting anything that you want, right? But if they would write in and ask that the regents work closely with the Carpenters Union to develop pre-qualification language that supports responsible general contractors on their projects, that would be tremendous, because that is something that would really help protect our communities.
Yeah. I'm going to look that up here in a moment and give it to the audience. One thing that I did look up is the UC Santa Cruz Open Projects Report. And this development up there is a $146 million project. So there is always money, but the money needs to be spent building properly constructed structures and making sure that the workers that do that work are properly paid. So we need to write in to the regents, the UC Regents, and say it again, because you have the words the best, Bryan.
Yeah, if people could write in to the UC Regents and request that they work closely with the Carpenters Union to develop pre-qualification language that protects their communities, that would be wonderful, because it would support your community and it would support the good contractors in your community that are doing the right thing all the time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
As a reference, I've been reading some of these excerpts from City on the Hill Press, which is the newspaper from UC Santa Cruz, written by the students. And the article I'm reading is Carpenters Union files lawsuit against UC Regents. And so, to go back to the W.E. O'Neill issue specifically, W.E. O'Neill of Nor Cal had the lowest bid value and score, solidifying them as UCSC's most suitable candidate for the project. In their bid documents, W.E. O'Neill of Northern California answered that it had no accidents resulting in fatality or on any of the projects within the last 5 years. However, their bid, the contractor used a Los Angeles project owned by W.E. O'Neill of California as a comparable project where a worker's fatality occurred 3 years ago.
Oh.
The worker fatality happened in July of 2021 when an energized overhead power line electrocuted workers holding rebar on a Los Angeles site run by a Los Angeles-based W.E. O'Neill of California. W.E. O'Neill of California faces ongoing litigation for the worker's fatality. And then Ed Reskin, UCSC's Chief Financial Officer and Vice Chancellor of Finance, Operations, and Administration, denied Local 505's appeal. So that's the Carpenters Union that was located in Aptos, which we combined with to become Local 646. So it's the same folks, same membership. But all right, so Ed Reskin, UCSC's Chief Financial Officer and Vice Chancellor of Finance, Operations, and Administration, denied Local 505's appeal of W.E. O'Neill of Nor Cal bid on April 5th. On April 10th, Local 505 filed an appeal against the contractor at the UCSC Construction Review Board. In their appeal, the union alleges intentional deception from W.E. O'Neill of Nor Cal due to their failure to report the 2021 worker fatality on the parent company's site and additional claims made against them on their pre-qualification documents and bid documents. The appeal was denied after that month, after a hearing on April 19th. And then it rolls into the ADCO drywall stuff after that. So
How can they
it's
deny?
unfortunate, but
How can they deny that when the record is clear that there was a fatality? It sounds like Debbie O'Neill
great
lied.
question.
And there's the proof, that person died.
Mm-hmm.
And yet on the paperwork, when they were trying to get the low bid, they said there had been no fatalities in 5 years. So
Mm-hmm.
so this was the regents that reviewed this appeal? Or was it
You know what? I do not want to speak out of turn. I'm not
sure.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely something to bring up. I have looked up the address. Let's see, this has to do
Mm-hmm.
with accommodations for the meetings. The next UC Regents meeting will be May 13th through the 15th, and it looks like it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be in San Francisco. But let me see if I can find an address. Again, I'm just looking up University of California Board of Regents, and listeners out
Yeah.
there, I urge you to do the same and to contact them. Here's the contact page. Members of the public are welcome to share concerns or views with the board by email, and that is regents with a plural office, regents office at UCOP as in Paul .edu. That's regents office at UCOP.edu. You can also send written correspondence, Office of the Secretary and Chief of Staff to the Regents. Let me say that again, it's a mouthful. Office of the Secretary and Chief of Staff to the Regents. The address is 1111 Franklin Street, 12th floor, Oakland, California, 94607. Correspondence sent to the Board of Regents may be answered by staff in the Office of the Secretary and Chief of Staff, in the Office of the President, or at the appropriate campus. Members of the public are welcome to submit written comments regarding items on the agenda as well. And I'm reading from the regents.universityofcalifornia.edu, their website. So the work that we see going on up on the meadow, I think it's called the Student Housing West Phase 1 Hagar Development. That has people out there working, maybe not getting paid a fair wage, and being overseen.
I would say at the least the company has been proven not to pay the fair wage somewhere.
Yeah. And this is W.E. O'Neill, who has subcontracted work out to ADCO Drywall and sheet metal?
Metal stud framing.
Metal stud framing. It is a huge project going on up there. And there is another very large project. UC Santa Cruz the Regents are building on Delaware. Do you know if that is also part of ADCO? Is that being also farmed out to ADCO?
I'm not prepared to talk about that one. Maybe next time.
Okay, next time, because that is a very, very large project. That's a very large project as well on Delaware Avenue in Santa Cruz. So what do you want to say to people who are listening to this and thinking, well, union work is too expensive and the university is saving money by letting non-union workers do this. What would you say to someone like that?
UC system is subject to prevailing wage, so all of them are being paid the wage of a union worker, or should be. We have an apprenticeship. We have a lot invested in being efficient and capable, all of the above, producing, the finest workers. And I would challenge anybody to be able to describe to me how somebody who isn't invested in the workers, doesn't have an apprenticeship, could beat out a union contractor on a bid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If the price of material is the price of material, I don't know where you're saving money.
Yeah.
So the other part of it too is what is the cost of humanity?
Yeah.
Are people just a number, or should they also have dignity? Should they also be able to participate in their communities and have dignity?
Yeah.
But the
do you mind if
I do want to say before we...
Yeah, I just want to open up the phone lines a bit. If anybody wants to call in, would you be all right with that, Bryan?
I do. Unfortunately, I do have to get going.
You got to get going. Okay.
But I wanted to hit on two different things.
Please.
ConstructionWageWatch.org
yes.
is a good web page that it highlights bad actors in the industry. Again, that's ConstructionWageWatch.org.
Mm-hmm.
And then on April 25th in Pleasanton at our apprenticeship, we have a Women in Construction career event.
Oh.
So if there's women out there that are interested in seeing what the union is about and has to offer, you can reach out to local 646. We'd be happy to supply you with the information to attend that and find out a little bit more. The different trades that we would cover, it's a great event. We kind of showcase what we do, introduce people to it. A lot of times there's contractors there as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
But we have the different things that we do are acoustical install, carpenter, drywall lather, install floor layer, insulation installer, millman and cabinet maker, millwright, modular systems installer, pile driver, and scaffold erector. So,
wow.
If you're interested in that, reach out to local 646 in Marina.
In Marina. And how do we do that?
You can just Google it, and you'll get all our information. But our phone number is 831-883-1931.
Okay, say it one more time so people make sure they get it correctly.
Absolutely, Becky. 831-883-1931.
Excellent. And that event is coming up in a little less than a month, April 25th in Pleasanton, supporting women getting into construction. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Anything else you want to say before you head off into your busy day?
No, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Okay.
your time and the opportunity to lean in on this.
Thank you. We'll get some letters going to the UC Regents and try to make it better up there. Thank you so much for your good work and all that you do to support the families.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. So that was Mr. Bryan Shields taking some time out of his very busy day. He is the organizer for Nor Cal Carpenters Union in the Bay Area, but serving Santa Cruz and Monterey counties. If you want information about that event, April 25th in Pleasanton, supporting women in construction, a career event, contact local 646 in Marina, and the number there is 831-883-1931. And it's disturbing to me to learn that The UC system is not required to hire union labor, but do only have to guarantee in some fashion that they are paying prevailing wage. And what that exactly means, I guess, is to be determined. But as Bryan said, it depends on those who submit the hours and the figures to the independent auditor, that those are correct, and that the auditor is indeed checking them out and verifying, which may or may not be happening. It is disturbing to me to hear that the W.E. O'Neill project up on the lower UCSC campus, if you drive up on Hagar Drive, you will be amazed. This is the big, beautiful meadow that a local citizens group tried to stop development on, but lost, and UCSC is building a lot of student and family housing there, and support staff services areas. And it's a big project. And W.E. O'Neill has subcontracted out to a company called ADCO Drywall and Metal Stud Framing. And that company is one of the worst contractors in terms of how they treat people, how they pay people, and this should be investigated. So I ask that you, listening out there, contact the UC Regents, and as Bryan recommended, ask that UC work closely with the local Carpenters Union to make sure there is pre-qualification language in all of their bids and projects that will ensure that their projects and the companies that they hire to do them are taking good care of the contracted laborers and good for our community. I want to thank Mr. Bryan Shields for taking time to share that information with us. If you have any thoughts on this issue, please call in. We've got about 12 minutes before the top of the hour, and then we'll launch into another topic or two. The number to call is 831-265-5050. Call in and let me know what you think. Is it, I often hear people say the unions did a good thing back when, there was child labor and things like that, but they're too powerful now. Well, I think it takes powerful action to protect people, especially those who may be vulnerable, fear of speaking up for whatever reason. And like Bryan said, it doesn't mean that it's connected to immigration. It's for a lot of reasons. They just don't want to speak up, don't feel comfortable doing it, fear of being blacklisted on other projects, or who knows. But the unions are there to support the workers, and it's, as Bryan was saying, it's there to support all of the workers and make sure that they have they are well trained, they have health care benefits, they have a pension, so that they can be dignified members of their community and have a good life. So, Nor Cal Carpenters Union, thank you very much for your work, and also for constructionwagewatch.org. That's where I learned about the legal action that was taken against a contractor, and it was settled out of court, and Bryan talked about that a little bit, for $1.274 million. There are a lot of things that go on out there, and the unions are there to help make it better and support the workers. This is Becky Steinbruner. I'm your host here on Community Matters. I would like to thank you for listening, and again thank Mr. Bryan Shields for taking time to share with us information about Nor Cal Carpenters Union and the WEO project going on up at UCSC campus on Hagar Drive, which has subcontracted out to ADCO Drywall and Metal Stud Framing, one of the worst contractors with lots and lots of problems. Do we want to tolerate that in our community? I don't think so. But it takes people like you and me to stand up and say something and insist that it change. So do that. Write to the UC Regents, look them up. All of the contact information is there. Their next meeting is May 13th. If you can, join by phone. It's at UCSF, and speak up. It makes a difference. If each of us does one thing, a phone call, a letter, every week, it will make a difference. I would like to invite you to call in with your thoughts. Area code 831-265-5050. The second hour, I am expecting a call from Kris Kirby early in the second hour. Kris Kirby is a former Santa Cruz Voice host here. She had a program with another person, Kristen Kulishaw, that had a program called Elephant in the Room. Last year, both of those ladies moved out of California. And we've interviewed them both. Kris Kirby is a dear friend of mine, and so I have invited her back once a month to tell us what is life like outside of California. And so she comes on at the last Friday of every month and fills us in. And I spoke with her this morning. I think you're really going to be interested in what she has to say here coming up. She is in Grants Pass, Oregon. And there is a lot going on in that little town. And boy, are those people active. And boy, do their elected officials pay attention and listen to them. What a concept. I attend many meetings of local government because I'm interested. I have been since an early age, but more actively in the last 10 years because of a big development that went on in my neighborhood in Aptos, and I just couldn't figure out how they could ever get approved, and that's what spurred me to learn more about local government when the world-famous post office bike jumps were bulldozed at a time of year when there was to be no such earth movement at all. And I learned about spoken and unspoken agreements. I learned how to file Public Records Act requests. But anyway, that's why I attend a lot of meetings, and I am sincerely interested in the community. So I attended on Wednesday evening Santa Cruz County Commission on the Environment and learned that in a presentation by the County Planning Department that they are looking at a new developer tax or mitigation fee, they call it, that will cause developers to have to pay more money in developer fees when they are building something that would be put into mitigating traffic that their developments cause. And that money, it would be called the Vehicle Miles Traveled Mitigation Fee, would be used to fund bicycle lanes and alternative forms of transportation. And that was from Miss Suzanne Hansen from the County Planning Department on Wednesday evening to the Santa Cruz County Commission on the Environment. They were getting an update on how the county is doing environmental projects. And you can listen to that recording if you look up Santa Cruz County Commission on the Environment. It it is actually a recording that you can listen to on their website. So you can hear her explanation of all of that, the vehicle miles traveled mitigation fee. The county used to do traffic studies and evaluate how the increase in traffic would change the level of service, the congestion at intersections, but they dropped that, and now it's vehicle miles traveled. How much more carbon people would vehicles would produce by traveling to and from a development. It's a pretty nebulous thing, and I have never agreed with or understood how they come up with the numbers. So there was that. There was also a presentation by Central Coast Community Energy, 3CE, which is the alternative aggregate energy agency for a large area. It is a large community from Santa Cruz all the way down to Santa Barbara, with counties and cities in between. And their CEO, Mr. Shaw, was there and gave a presentation about battery energy storage systems. And I'm hoping that we can get into that a little bit more in the second hour. If you're listening and you want to call in the second hour after Kris Kirby's time, she's got a commitment, so she won't stay on long. But let's talk more about this battery energy storage system issue, because Santa Cruz County leadership is trying to sweep it under the rug. So 3CE did this presentation to the Santa Cruz County Commission on the Environment Wednesday evening, March 26th. It was in the County Board of Supervisors chambers and was recorded, and I encourage you to listen to it. The thing that bothered me most about what Mr. Shaw said when one of the commissioners mentioned Assembly Member Dawn Addis's proposed legislation that she talked about on the program here last Friday. You can listen to that recording on the website for santacruzvoice.com. AB 303 would restrict where these battery energy storage systems could be located, restricting them 3,200 feet from hospitals, schools, and other sensitive residential and environmental places. And Mr. Shaw said he didn't like that because it would really restrict where these battery energy storage facilities could be put, and the 3CE is desperate to have them available and in an affordable place, which means near these already existing substations. So he's against that. AB 303, Dawn Addis's fabulous, in my opinion, legislation. I'll talk more about that in the second hour, because in his mind, restricting where they can go is a bad thing. In my mind, restricting where they can go is a very good thing. And we'll talk a little more about what's going on in Santa Cruz County. The Seahawk Energy battery energy storage system in the permitting process in Watsonville, one of 3 such sites that the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors approved in concept last October 29th, and we may be hearing more about in the very near future. The Santa Cruz Board of Supervisors will be reviewing a proposed ordinance about these things next month. So stay tuned and call in.
Ready to connect. Click Connect to show now. You are connected as the host. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the call-in studio web interface. Audio recording is on. Dual channel.
Hi, Kris. Can you hear me?
Kris Kirby.
Hi, Kris. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Becky.
Hi. Oh, nervous as always, but it's good to hear you.
How was the first hour?
You know, it was very good. He was a lot better organized than I was and really did a great job explaining the importance of and benefits of union laborers.
Right.
And really explained well what's going on up at UCSC. They've hired a company that has a very poor record and has.
Who's that?
It's called W.E. O'Neill.
Huh.
And they.
So Matt used to work for a construction company, and he did work up there, and they were non-union years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
well,
hey, if Jeff calls, don't take it.
I won't.
I couldn't believe he did that last time. I'm like, oh, all he does is advertise his own show.
I saw him at the Lions Club meeting last night, and it was just such poor form. It was a student speaker contest, and the kids were there. We were all supposed to be very quiet. He came up and kept talking with me about his show.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was pretty weird.
Yeah, he is odd. He's an
Yeah.
odd guy. Anyways,
Yeah.
no phone calls from him.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to be on in about 20 seconds.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You want to speak a little bit? Let me do a sound check for you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Ah, that's perfect. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to hear you.
No, thank you. Yeah.
All right. 3 seconds.
Okay.
Hello. Welcome back to Community Matters. This is Becky Steinbruner. I'm honored to be your host for the next hour here at SantaCruzVoice.com. I want to thank Satellite Work and Digital Media Center for the great space that they have here. Our studio is here at 325 SoCal Avenue in Santa Cruz. That's between Ocean Street in Santa Cruz and the lovely San Lorenzo River. I encourage you to come check this great place out. It's quiet, clean, and very secure. And the first Friday of the month is free. If you want to come in and do some work, there are open community workspaces but it's very quiet there. There are enclosed small meeting rooms where you can go. You can have a small meeting here. It's available to rent by the hour, by the day, by the month, whatever your need is. Check it out. Satellite Work and Digital Media Space. We share this great space with community television. They have equipment you can rent and do some podcasting, video recording as well. So thank you for staying on into the second hour. Again, I want to thank my first hour guest, Mr. Bryan Shields from Nor Cal Carpenters Union, talking with us about the benefits of a carpenters union, a union, how they support people and their families and the community. And in a dignified way, they are good workers doing good work in our community, and the problems that's happening now at UCSC at the Hagar Field Development, where the UC Regents have signed a contract, the low bid contract with W.E. O'Neill, which has quickly subcontracted out to ADCO Drywall and Metal Stud Framing, which has a very poor track record, one of the worst track records in the way they treat people, wage theft, all kinds of things. We don't want this in our community. We don't want it at all. So again, I urge you to write to the UC Regents and ask that they work with local carpenters unions to make sure there is pre-qualification language on all projects to work with the local carpenters unions and support good contractors that are union and pay their workers and are good for the community. So now we have a great guest, also Miss Kris Kirby. Kris, hello. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I had a show called The Elephant in the Room on Santa Cruz Voice, and we stopped about a year ago, and now I've moved to Oregon, and I just kind of update you guys what's going on up here.
Yeah, thank you. It's always a pleasure to hear you on Santa Cruz Voice. And your programs always bring forth a number of responses from the listeners. Gee, I'm thinking about moving out of California too. It's expensive, it's crowded, all kinds of reasons. So in a nutshell, for maybe those who have not listened before, I really appreciate you coming on as a regular guest the last Friday of every month, Kris. In a nutshell, explain what drove you and your family to move out of California.
Well, we're in southern Oregon, so it's different than the rest of crazy Oregon. My father-in-law happens to live here, and we just found the perfect house. And we're on the Rogue River. Love it. I love the seasons, the beauty of it. There is zero traffic in Grants Pass. I think when you go south, I know, south to Medford, there is a little bit there, during the 5 o'clock rush time, but it's nothing compared to Santa Cruz, and I really, really don't miss that. That was probably the traffic. I mean, it's a complete waste of everyone's time. It just makes no sense. So one of my sons has since moved up here, and he starts a job on Monday, and his job is 9 minutes away, and literally it takes him 9 minutes to get there. There's never a variance. So
wow.
When you say you're going to go somewhere, like even just like Mark's over at my father-in-law's house right now, you know exactly how long it's going to take you, which I love that freedom of it.
Yeah.
So I've gotten involved with the Republicans here, which is probably not a surprise to a lot of people. And the protesting is huge here. We actually went up to Salem a month ago or so to protest this fire map that they put out that is now it's in, I guess the governor's probably going to reject it because it's so wrong. It's so inaccurate. It's just, hang on, I'm sorry, I'm sitting outside. My newspaper person just drove up. We have a rock, I guess it's rock driveway. which Mark and I both have gotten rocks lodged in between our brakes. And we both thought we had issues until we take it to the place and they just pull a rock out. So it's kind of a weird driveway to have. I never thought about it.
Wow.
So anyway, so we went up there and protested this fire map. There's people out in front of the county court building almost daily protesting, well, the fire map, but we think that's a done deal to get rid of. Our assembly person, who I've become good friends with, is protesting these books in school libraries, like The Haters is one of them, and it's basically porn, and he read it on the floor a couple weeks ago, and they stopped him because it's so vulgar. So they're protesting some of these books in the libraries. The homeless have more rights than citizens, so they're always protesting that. So it's kind of cool to see people speaking up.
That is really encouraging. And as you and I talked earlier this morning, it sounds like your elected officials listen to them.
Yeah, well, our city council and they're called commissioners, not supervisors here, are all conservatives, so they definitely listen, and they make their decisions by it. Right now, as a lot of people know, Grants Pass was known last June for the homeless situation because I guess they were we probably have like 400 or 500 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe, which is a lot less than Santa Cruz. But they were allowed in the parks, and then they went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said they had no rights to be in the parks because it wasn't safe for kids and needles and the whole thing. So they kicked them out of the park. So they've given them some plots of land in town that they can camp on. But now there's a big lawsuit by 5 disabled homeless people, and that's questionable in itself because if they were disabled, you'd think that they'd want to go into a mission setup and get off the drugs and everything that's holding them back and become productive, as productive as they can be. So we're waiting for the decision, hopefully today, from this local judge on that. Mm-hmm. What they're looking for is to get a bunch of money, saying that these homeless spots, these lots of land, are not adequate for them. So it depends on what side of the road you're on how you feel about this. But to me, it just seems ridiculous. Mm-hmm. If I can't wheel my wheelchair out into a hard packed surface, is what they're saying. And as we know, a lot of them aren't. They're just disabled by choices, not necessarily physically. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting thing to see up here, but it is different than down there, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways. I'm interested in this fire map issue. When you and I spoke last, you said that there had been a town hall meeting about it, and there were like 1,000 people or something that came out of the mountains, and what an amazing thing. I mean, here, a similar fire map got released, and it seems like nobody even knows about it. So, go ahead.
Well, ours came to the previous owners because we bought this house in September, so it came to their name, to this address, and I mean, right there it shows their records and we got it in January, February. It should have had our name on it by then, so that was obviously done wrong. And in the paperwork, it said we're high risk, but when you go online, it says our property's medium risk. I mean, we're right on the Rogue River, and we have a 7 acres, so it's a pretty big property with a lot of trees, but nothing close to the house. Our house has cement shingles on it and cement siding. I tried to screw something into it recently, and I couldn't do it because it's cement. So chances are our house will be harder to burn than most. So a lot of people can't get it. I mean, their insurance is being canceled, same thing throughout California, and it's affecting their insurance rates, whether they can get insurance or not. And it's not accurate at all. When you zero in on your property, it's a lot of times it isn't even your property. I mean, it's just poorly done.
Wow. I'm interested that the notice of the map's classification of your parcel's risk was mailed to you directly. That didn't happen here. You just kind of were supposed to know. I mean,
well, that's why people aren't interested or don't know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody got the same thing. And the senator, his name's, I'll think of it. He's down in Ashland, Jeff Golden. I found his home address. Not that I was a stalker or anything, but we found it. And a guy went down with a drone and droned this guy's property. And of course, he's in the blue area. He's in the, all good to go area. But really, his house has a lot of trees, a lot of shrubbery, a lot of bushes. And his looked no better or worse than anybody else's. So we brought that up to him, and he mumbled, through that answer. But it seems very penalizing to people. A lot of these people, they don't want to lose their homes. They don't want to lose where they live. They don't want to. So they've cut the trees. They've cut the bushes. They keep everything mowed down. Mm-hmm. So, these people take this serious. It's not, it's usually the BLM, yeah, that's the order. It's usually that land that's where the fire starts because it hasn't been managed, and then it'll go over to regular people's properties. And they have percentages on that. It's actually quite interesting. I couldn't tell you what it was, but it's mostly that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
well,
it's not these people's properties. And smoke, I guess I was listening to something earlier. Smoke during the summer here is really bad from nearby fires. Grants Pass happens to be kind of a bowl of a area, and it settles here. So Mark and I just kind of look at each other like, wow, we've never experienced that. So it'll be interesting to see how bad it really gets.
Well, do take care. I just heard something on the news yesterday from a researcher that had analyzed blood testing of firefighters that worked in the LA fires, and their levels of mercury and lead were very elevated. Because, where you are, it would be more likely to be a wildland fire, but in LA, it was just all the toxic stuff from homes that burned. So do take care. Well, Kris, I am going to investigate this notification lack of level regarding California's recently released local response area fire maps. That was not mailed out.
Is the fire map accurate or inaccurate like it is here?
I think it's inaccurate because in our area we had been moderate. We're in the Aptos Creek Canyon where the fog tends to come up, and suddenly we are in the high. But it depends on, one side of the road can be one, and the other side of the road can be a different. It's the very same conditions. So how was that done? It's not very granular, and as you've helped me see now, it has not been noticed to the level that it should have been. I learned more information about it by going to an event that the Scotts Valley Fire District put on, sort of an open house thing, and they were showing the maps there. You could give them your address and they'd talk with you about it. It was a very good event. And what I learned there from the Scotts Valley building official was that this will trigger really big changes in the city of Scotts Valley for building. Anything built in 2010 and later, if you try to, certainly new construction will have to have these new codes, but if you go to do anything on your home that requires a permit, you will have to bring the home up to these new specifications of 1 hour fire resistance of all materials. So there will be no more composition roofing allowed in Scotts Valley. It's huge. Wow. It is huge. And people don't know about this. So, golly, thank you.
I would say my house in Seascape was more dangerous than this one. And we're in, we're 4 miles out of Grants Pass. Mm-hmm. We had that big arroyo area behind us, and that was definitely a hazard. And remember that guy that
Yes.
scammed that property off of that whole thing. That was weird. In Seascape, if anybody wants to know, I could answer questions about that. But that was more dangerous than here, and we have a lot of big trees. I look forward to you coming up here.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it too.
I mean, we have ag. We have a lot of hay or alfalfa, or being grown across the road. It's we have a lot of cows.
Nice.
I got chicks yesterday. I'm so excited.
You got baby chicks. Wow.
Yes, Mark's gonna build me a chicken coop, and we're doing that route. And our garden, we can't plant our garden until at least Mother's Day because it still gets cold and frosty up here.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm looking forward to that. It's just a whole different life, and I'm loving it. I really am loving it.
So you just answered my next question. For those who are contemplating a move out of California, do you have any regrets at all?
My answer is zero. I love it up here. One of our sons wasn't speaking to us for a while, and now he's back, and he says, well, now that I'm retired and sold my business, he says, what do you do all day? I said, I don't know. Somehow I'm busy. I'm painting. I'm doing things. I don't know. It's great. I love it up here. I could just drive around and see areas that I'd never seen before. We've met a lot of friends. We've got friends. It's good. There's always something to do.
That's wonderful. You're in a good spot there, Kris. I'm really, really glad.
It worked out. I mean, this house we bought is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's good. And one of my sons, Matt, moved up here a few weeks ago, and he starts a job on Monday. Luckily, we have an apartment over the garage, so he's living over there, and he's selling his house in Aptos, and he'll be able to buy something up here.
Nice.
It's all good.
Was it hard for him to find work? I think that's maybe another consideration.
Yeah, since Mark is working remotely, so he still has his same job. So Matt was a project manager for a commercial construction company, and he hasn't worked in a little over a year. And he sent out, I'm bugging him every day. Come on, Matt, where are you applying? Trying to be positive, trying to get him in gear. He had one interview with this millworks company, contractors, and they hired him.
Nice.
The first interview, he got a job, and it pays fairly well for up here.
Excellent.
Our cost of living is so much less up here.
Yeah.
There's no sales tax.
No sales tax, yeah.
That is probably the best. You don't have if something's $4.99, it's $4.99.
Yeah.
There's no bonus charges to that. He starts his job on Monday, and he actually went to another interview today just to go see. I mean, he's already accepted the one, but he figures I should just go meet people in this industry. Mm-hmm. So I'm proud of him for that.
Very good.
And I did hear that some gal's daughter is a firefighter here locally, and she doesn't get paid a lot, and she has a second job at In-N-Out, because In-N-Out pays like $22 an hour, and she actually makes more money at In-N-Out. Which that was sad to hear, but it is reality. So I guess you work around what you have to do.
You do what you need to do, and hopefully she enjoys that job. It's not always just about the paycheck, is it?
Right. So she's working both, and I guess she's happy. So that's a good thing. I don't know. It's crazy times for sure.
Yes, it is. Well, I know you have something happening at your house, and I don't want to take your time if you've got to scoot off and get doing things.
All right. No, you have a lot to talk about. It's I just recently joined back up on Aptosia, and that Aptos High principal being asked to leave that school. Something is so ugly there. She's an amazing woman and principal, and I hate to say it, I'm just glad I'm out of all the baloney. I mean, I'm sure it's going on here, and I don't know all the ins and outs yet, but I mean, that just makes zero sense. That superintendent, what is her problem? Yeah. So I think that's something that needs to be looked into. I've read on the Aptosia thing, people saying that the board members, they're all pretty new. They just don't have the gumption to stand up to the superintendent and say, no, this is a beloved person that should stay at that school.
I heard a little bit about that, but I'll have someone on our program to talk about that. Hey, we've got a caller, Michael, that wants to chime in. Do you have a minute to stay on?
Sure.
All
Sure.
right. Let's bring Michael on. Hello, Michael. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi,
Hello.
Michael.
You're
How you
on
doing,
with
Kris?
Kris Kirby.
Chris, I was listening to your comment about working at In-N-Out Burger up in Medford or at Grants Pass. That's probably a pretty darn $22 an hour. It's probably a pretty darn good wage for Grants Pass.
It is.
And one of the great attractions to me for patronizing In-N-Out Burger is that wherever I go to an In-N-Out Burger, I find happy, smiling faces.
That is
And
very
it's
true. They are happy.
Yes, and so when there's a choice, there is no choice. I always go for those happy, smiling faces. Because
Agreed.
at the other places, I see disgruntled, dispirited, sad frowns. And
Yeah.
I don't like to.
You know, Dutch Bros is the coffee place here, and Matt and I stopped in one yesterday after we got my new chicks, and it was a whole little drive-through thing, both sides of just guys. Usually there's high school girls, but this was just guys in this one little store, and they were so happy to be there and working and doing their thing. And it really made me, that Dutch Bros guy has a great business model for people to follow. You know, hire young people, teach them skills, you know, how to deal with money, how to make coffee and treat people. And it's very successful here. So kind of the same thing. Yeah, I'm all for supporting those kind of businesses.
Yep, look for the smiles. There you go.
Yeah,
And
be happy about it.
It sounds to me like you're almost like an In-N-Out Burger worker because you're all smiles about living in Grants Pass.
I know. I know. People are like, "You really are this happy?" I said, "I love it here." I mean, and you guys are invited. Anybody? I mean, let me know if you want to come up because it's an amazing. Our property is probably the best thing. I'm sitting out here on a front porch. It's just so enjoyable. There's always something to do. So yeah,
But you know the downside to that?
What?
You can't come back.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. People can come visit.
Okay.
And
That would be a suitable replacement. I know that if I moved out of Santa Cruz, you'd have to be a billionaire to move back in.
Yeah,
So good luck
just
on
that
that.
traffic alone and people, I don't know. I mean, we have no e-bikes here. I can't tell you how different it is. I don't know if people can't afford them or what, but it's not dangerous. It was getting dangerous down there for being a car and an e-bike rider, because I do have an e-bike. I have not taken my bike out since we've been here because we're kind of far out of town. But it's just so different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is different. It's rural Oregon. And it's Jefferson State, Oregon. It's not Portland, or not Portlandia.
No. No, it's.
But you are governed by Portlandia.
Yep, and our governor she and Newsom should be hanging out, or they probably do hang out together. Hopefully we'll get a conservative governor in next time, because I think a lot of people see the good to it. So I don't know. It's been interesting. I did see Kristen this last weekend. Her father passed away, and we went to Auburn for the service on Saturday, and that was an interesting coming back into California. As soon as you go over the border, the roads change for the worse when you go into it was obvious. I mean, it was so obvious. We were in the traffic, and we drove down. We left at 5:30 in the morning, got back here at about 11 that night.
Wow.
And we were done with it, but we did, go down and get to see her and her mom and everybody, so that was good.
Mm-hmm.
I have a great story about that road. You know,
What?
when that Highway 5 goes south over the Siskiyous and down into California and heads south
Yeah.
to San Diego, it's a perfectly straight north-south road until you get to the little town of Wairika.
Right.
And if
We stopped there.
you look on your map, you'll see that I-5 makes a 25-mile horseshoe detour to touch that little town of Wairika with 3 freeway off-ramps. And the reason it does that was because it was the home of a guy named Randolph Collier, who led the revolt against California in the early 40s because California wasn't paying any attention to the roads. So he led the state of Jefferson revolt and was to be the first state of Jefferson governor.
Wow.
And then when all of that fizzled out with the advent of World War II, Randolph Collier was appointed by Governor Pat Brown to be the father of the California freeway system. And so he steered I-5 due north until it comes next to his little hometown of Wairika there, and made you drive an extra 25 miles out of your road so you could possibly stop by Wairika.
I'm looking at it on a map. You are right. It is a veer off the straight. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Good
Wow.
story,
That's
though.
interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just different up here. And I guess I was born and raised in San Jose and Saratoga and in Santa Cruz, and it was time for me to go try something else. I don't know. It's worked out. That's all I can
Good.
say.
Mm-hmm.
Good. And you still can come back, you know.
I know. I can. I have places, yes.
Okay.
But I hope people come up and see us too, because it really is fun to adventure and learn a new place.
Mm-hmm.
Always is.
Yep.
But
Well, good to
that's
hear
not
from you,
true.
Michael.
Yeah, good to talk with you, and it's good to hear that you do have an In-N-Out burger there in Grants Pass, because that means I more than likely will show up there.
Okay, you're welcome to come stay. We have plenty of room.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Okay,
you,
bye.
Michael. Thank you.
All right, Becky, I know you have other things to talk about.
Thank you so much, Kris, for checking in and filling us in on the haps of Grants Pass, and that you have so happily moved out of California and recommend it to those who are contemplating doing so as well. Thank you
But
so
Michael's
much.
right. It would be hard to come back financially and mentally, I guess.
Yeah,
don't
you know, your description of having to come back into Auburn and feeling like, oh man, I don't want to do this. You know, maybe
it felt
once you,
heavy.
sorry?
It felt heavy
Yeah,
on my brain.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. We will look for the news about what that judge in Grants Pass decides regarding a further lawsuit of homelessness that did put Grants Pass in the public eye federally last year. And I'm going to check into this mapping notification that California did not do, but happened in Grants Pass. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you, and good talking with you.
Likewise, say hello to your family and enjoy your brand new baby chicks.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, take care. Bye. So that was Kris Kirby, a former Santa Cruz Voice host here, Elephant in the Room, and moved out of California after, I think she was a fourth generation Californian. Moved out up to Grants Pass, Oregon, and I don't think she's ever going to look back. But we're sure glad that she takes time to join us here in the studio, and that will be a regular feature, the last Friday of every month, just to check in. And if you have any thoughts or questions about moving out of California, if you're thinking about it, feel free to call in. She's going to be here the final Friday of every month, and it's always good to hear her. you can call in too. Here's the number, 831-265-5050. Now, I mentioned in the first hour of Community Matters that I attended this Santa Cruz County Commission on the Environment meeting last Wednesday, and that in that meeting there were two presentations. One was by Community Energy, Central Coast Community Energy 3CE CEO Mr. Shaw, and that he publicly stated he did not like Assemblymember Don Addis's proposed legislation AB 303 because it would restrict where these battery energy storage systems could be built. Well, that's precisely why she's saying this. They should not be built within 3,200 feet of hospitals, schools, residential neighborhoods, and very sensitive environmental receptor areas such as College Lake in Watsonville. Maybe we would consider Loch Lomond if there were a site there. And we certainly have seen with Moss Landing Vistra fire, these things should not be near the Elkhorn Slough. But there they are. And the Moss Landing site was the largest such site of these battery energy storage systems in the world. But nobody knew that until Moss 300, Vistra's Moss 300 site caught on fire and burned for days, and some say is still smoldering. The part that bothers me is that it is not being regularly or thoroughly or properly discussed in the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisor agenda meetings. They had a report about it on January 28th and have not had anything since. Supervisor Manu Koenig tried to get the board to agree with him that this county needs to put the brakes on approving the county's ordinance that will regulate how these facilities would be sited, built, overseen in Santa Cruz County. And the date that is going to happen is by April 25th, likely slightly before. I was shocked and very saddened to see that none of the other 4 supervisors on the board would support Supervisor Koenig with that simple request. Let's just slow this down. No support. He did get, with great difficulty, the board to agree to do some water and soil sampling for some of the heavy metals from the cloud that did go over Santa Cruz County from the Moss 300 fire. And those results were released, but the data is very questionable. The data you really want to look at is what's available on the Never Again Moss Landing website. And I'm seeing we have a caller now that may also have further information. I urge you to go to Assemblymember Dawn Addis's website. She is doing an excellent job of providing also a forum there that gives the battery energy storage debris removal timeline for Monterey County's disaster, and that spilled into Santa Cruz County. I'd like to take this caller now. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yep, it's Nina. Becky, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for calling in, Nina. Why don't you introduce yourself? You are doing some amazing work on this issue.
Okay. In late January, my husband Greg and I became increasingly concerned about what we were discovering through our research and reading about the lithium-ion battery energy storage push in California. and we formed a group. We are called STOP Lithium BESS in Santa Cruz County. At this point, we're on Facebook. You can find us there under that name. It's a growing group. There's over 140 people in it right now. We do not have a website yet, but we are designing one right now. And I just wanted to say maybe a few things, but probably the most important thing for me is what Becky just talked about. We have been a small but very persistent and patient group of us have been attending all of the Board of Supervisor meetings and meeting with supervisors one-on-one in person and emailing them. And the message that we're getting from the county is that it's too early in the process to hold a town hall so that people can find out more about this very critical issue for everyone. It's just too early, they say. Well, we think that if it's not too early for the developer to submit their plans, then it can't be too early for the public, for all of us, for the residents to become familiar with those plans and, with the county's plans as well. It just doesn't make sense to us. It seems to be most logical and reasonable to open up a conversation sooner rather than later. So I also wanted to say very respectfully that I've heard and I've read in a number of local news media sources that there is a certain amount of kind of hysterical alarmism maybe going on with this whole issue. And so I wanted to put a plug in for kind of a different way of looking at this. So about a week and a half ago, our little fledgling organization here in Santa Cruz was invited to join a consortium, a coalition of 10 counties in California, and I'm going to list them for you. That coalition is called Californians for Safe Energy Storage. And basically, we support sustainable energy, absolutely, and California's 2045 carbon neutral goals. And we don't oppose battery energy storage sites in general. What we are opposed to is unsafe siting of lithium-ion BESS facilities, which are frankly best sited in remote areas and also integrated with solar and or wind. I know there is some controversy about that, but that is probably the safest for people and the environment. The counties involved in this, I'm going to list them for you so that maybe you have more of a sense of how widespread this issue is. Okay, so I'm looking for that. Just give me a second. Okay, so we have Acton in Los Angeles County, where there's a BESS land. We have Vacaville in Solano County. We have Orange County. We have Escondido and San Marcos, where there's a huge facility called Seguro being planned in San Diego County. We have Petaluma in Sonoma County. We have Morro Bay, Estero Bay, Morro Bay in San Luis Obispo County. We have Marin County. We have, of course, Moss Landing and Never Again Moss Landing in Monterey County. And then we have Los Banos, where there's a big facility being planned about 9 miles out of town in Merced County. And then there's us. So I'm just kind of respectfully putting a plug in for the idea that it's not possible for so many people across 10 counties in California to all be alarmist. This is a real issue, a critically important issue for us as we move forward into, hopefully a safe, carbon neutral grid and carbon neutral future. And we really welcome people to come by. Our next meeting for this group is April 5th, which is a big rally day nationally. So we know that people are probably going to be plugged into other events. If you want to cruise by and check us out, we are in the Aptos library from 10 to 12 in the morning. and we will have fact sheets available for people to pick up and some other information just so that you can become more educated on this issue. Okay, so that was my spiel, Becky, and I also a lot of more detailed information, like if you would like to ask me some questions. I went to a GoBiz, I participated in a webinar, GoBiz webinar, California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development webinar on Wednesday morning, gained a lot of insight there. And then I just have kind of other information that's coming from this really powerful coalition, like specific information on repeated claims by the industry that these facilities absolutely have to be co-sited with existing substations and electrical substations, which is actually false. So anyway, but I know that you have a limited amount of time, and I don't know if you'd like to ask me more questions. I can also call back next week if you'd like.
I would like to ask you more questions. First of all, I want to thank you for sharing the safeenergystorage.org website, Californians for Safe Energy Storage. That is a fabulous site, and what I like about it is there are different areas that you can take action, such as an alert for AB 303 when it was due to come before the State Utilities and Energy Committee on April 2nd, and they gave a list of people on that committee to call and try to convince them to support AB 303, Assemblymember Don Addis's work. That, I believe, it has been pulled per this website, and I also phoned this morning Assemblymember Addis's office to confirm it has been pulled from that committee's consideration for April 2nd, but will come back in May because they wanted more time for discussion. So that, to me, is an example of people taking action, and it will make a positive difference. 1 to 5 calls, that's all they were asking to do. So again, take a look at this website, and Nina, I want to thank you for sharing it with us, safeenergystorage.org. And they've got information there about who they are, ordinary citizens from a growing list of California counties representing approximately 21 million Californians, who are urging our state lawmakers to pay attention to the public safety and environmental issues surrounding battery energy storage facilities. Lawmakers and the CPUC are very responsive to the energy industry lobbyists and campaign funders, but not to the actual constituents who get them elected, and we need to change that. So this is a great website, safeenergystorage.org. Nina, I want to thank you for all your hard work. I know that you are really and your husband Greg are doing some wonderful work canvassing in the neighborhoods near the 90 Minto Road project, the Seahawk Energy Project. I would like you to share why you think the county and agencies are in such a rush to make sure all of this happens.
Okay, well, So the overarching theme for this GoBiz webinar meeting that I participated in Wednesday morning was really to just basically push a full throttle ahead battery energy storage program. And it is primarily lithium ion. The industry, the BESS sector industry and the battery industry and the government working with them are not really interested in exploring non-flammable, non-explosive battery solutions. I can tell you that I posted a question 7 times patiently. I actually had a response from ACESA, one of the big lobbies for the battery sector, battery energy sector. The person actually responded to it and basically said, yes, we represent about a dozen companies that are not lithium ion, but they're just not capable of being applied to large-scale battery energy facilities, BESS facilities. And so personally, I think that in the near future, there will have to be a transition to that because of the degree to which these BESS facilities using lithium ion do in fact pose risks to communities. But the future, I guess, will tell. My husband and I are going to do everything we can to advocate for that transition. So at the meeting, the webinar, they focused on designing what they called a playbook or a toolkit for how to best push through a BESS development in a community that was pushing back.
Oh, goodness.
And that was very much, the webinar was very much centered on that. And so unsurprisingly, this is something that you spend a lot of time on, Becky, rightfully so. Unsurprisingly, a large chunk, a major chunk of this 3-hour webinar was focused on information from various fire agencies, both at the state and local level. And the CPUC member who was presenting did say, just straightforwardly, forthrightly, no one knows how to suppress this once it's in flame. So they understand that there is a risk, but most of this webinar was pushing the idea of how to mitigate it and minimize the risk. And so I think that as a community, if we have one of these being built here, we need to focus on really learning and like educating ourselves and learning and understanding how to respond to this and how to engage the fire agencies in the area. Because, you know, there are things that we can require from the developer. New Leaf Energy's plans, for instance, for the CHOP facility proposed for 90 Minto Road, they're very incomplete. And they don't reflect some of the big safety changes that have just actually been enacted. But beyond that, they don't reflect things that we need. So, for instance, one of the favorite claims from developers is there's going to be no off-site impacts. Wow. So we need to familiarize ourselves with something that is called OCA, off-site consequences analyses. Sometimes they're called off-site hazard analyses. And they are like wildly manipulated by developers by limiting how much of the container is expected to burn, or the weather conditions are going to be, 7 miles per hour winds, prevailing winds, what threshold is used, distance threshold. And so there are 3. They're called AEGL thresholds, and there are 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3. 3 is based on death, you die, you're so close, you die. And then, so it would be very important to push for AEGL 1, which would potentially require the facility to be out a few thousand feet, like what Don Addis is proposing. So there's just a lot of information to learn, along with these, the AEGL threshold limits. There's also a huge importance for, demanding good plume studies. The plume studies, the best one apparently, ironically, is from Vistra's 2024 offsite consequence analysis. And so this coalition is basically warning everybody, use that one because that one puts the plume furthest out. So I know we're probably running short on time here pretty soon, but I'm just saying that we have tons of information, and we're going to start developing, like I said, a website with resources on it for the community. And we're going to be producing some of these like in small fact sheet kind of formats that people can pick up at the meetings. We meet
Excellent.
every first and third Saturday at Aptos Library for right now.
Excellent. First and third Saturday at the Aptos Library from 10 to 12?
It's going to be from 10 to 12 on the 5th. But after that, it will vary.
Okay.
Aptos Library is difficult to book.
Yes.
So sometimes we will meet in the morning. Sometimes we may meet in the early afternoon.
Okay.
And that information is available on the Facebook, STOP Lithium BESS in Santa Cruz County. Becky, I just wanted to say very quickly that we also, Greg and I received information on this statement that the facility has to be co-located with an existing electrical substation. And actually, one of the women leaders in this group, her husband is a fire chief. And so he produced a very educated statement about where the voltage is actually, or where the loss of energy really occurs, where along the transmission voltage the energy really occurs. And it's not what they claim. So there's really no operational reason why the BESS needs to be near a substation other than a cost savings to the developer.
Yeah.
And I have more information on that I can share with.
Thank you very much. Maybe we'll talk offline. You could, I'll have to send you an email because I have to exit the studio right away. But let's get you back on for longer time because, Nina, you are a wealth of information and a real inspiration as a community activist. So thank you very much. We've got one more minute. What do you want to say?
Say that again because you're kind of bouncing on my end a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. So in our last minute, I want to first of all thank you. But what would you most like to tell the listeners the things they can do that will help make a difference?
I think that I am a strong believer in education and information. We need to educate ourselves because this is coming down the pike. And the more we all know, the more we're informed, the more we're capable of being empowered and advocating for change in the kind of community that we really want to live in.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your work and thank you for calling in. I'm going to use the last second to do a plug for an event tonight that I hope everyone will attend. It's called Rising at the Rio Theater on SoCal Avenue in Santa Cruz, 6:30 tonight, a fundraiser for Rising Worldwide, a local organization that provides free training for youth so they can not fall into the clutches of human trafficking. Sex and labor trafficking is alive and well and rampant in our state and our city. Rio Rising tonight, 6:30. Thanks. All right, we are off the air.